Two people on the same corner in the same minute ask for the same ride and get different prices. The price on your phone is not the same price on theirs. You will never find out which one of you paid more. You will just pay it. Why does your ride cost more than the ride of the person standing right next to you? Not a busy street. Not the traffic. Not the weather. Something else decided that number, and it decided it about you. Nobody ever thinks to turn to the stranger beside them and ask what they are paying. So, for a long time, nobody actually knew whether the numbers matched. When somebody finally went and checked, the gap between the cheapest group and the priciest was 42%. Let's find out why. Start with one ordinary road in Kansas City. They were quoted 29 different prices for it. Not spread across a week, but inside the same handful of minutes. Same road, same moment, and the same car coming to collect them. The only thing that changed was who happened to be doing the asking, because a price used to be a fact about the thing you were buying. Somewhere along the way, it quietly became a fact about you instead. Think about what a price tag on a shelf was actually doing. A number written on card and hung where every person walking past can see it. That is the price everyone can read, and it was doing something quietly enormous. It was the one number in the whole shop that belonged to everybody at once. You never had to trust the shop, and you never had to understand pricing. You just had to look at what the person next to you was paying. If your number was bigger than theirs, you could see it, and you could argue. Nobody had to trust anybody because the number was simply sitting there in public. Ink on card, the same for the person beside you and the one behind them. So the price was public for all of history, and that is exactly what lets you check it. What happens to you when it stops being public? What decides the number now is a question you have never had to ask. And you already have an answer ready for this one. Everybody wants a ride at the same moment because it is raining and it is 6 o'clock. The number climbs for a while and then it settles back down again. The trade calls that dynamic pricing or surge pricing. From here on, the busy time price. Almost nobody objects to it, and honestly, that seems fair enough. A fare that jumps when the bars empty out surprises precisely nobody. Everyone standing there watches the same number go up together. The ride companies say exactly this, and they say it plainly. A trip is defined by when it is requested and what conditions exist around it. Cars move, drivers finish their shifts, and the map changes second by second. One rider might simply be standing further from the nearest free car. Here is the one thing it does not cover. The busy time price is something the crowd does to a number, all at once. It cannot leave you and the stranger beside you holding two different numbers. So somebody had to go out and find out what was really going on. So here is how you would actually go and find out. Almost everything that follows comes from three places, and it is worth naming them now. A consumer group's own testing, a federal regulator's files, and what the companies said out loud. The consumer group is Consumer Reports, and it went at this the slow way. It recruited 174 volunteers from all over the country. They stood on the same corners and asked for the same rides. Not roughly together, but within minutes of each other, and often the same minute. More than 40 routes right across the country. The drivers joined in as well, through a drivers' union out in Oregon, which tells you something useful before a single number has arrived. They were doing on purpose what you have never done with your phone. Everyone wrote down what their screen said, and the numbers were laid side by side. So the busy time price is real, but it cannot leave two people on one corner with different numbers. So somebody went and looked at what those two numbers actually were. Go back to that road in Kansas City and take the figures one at a time. 55 people asked for that same ride, minutes apart. It came back with 29 different prices. The dearest was quoted over $65 and the cheapest less than half of that. Same road, same minute, same car turning up at the curb. The only difference was the price on your phone or on theirs. That is more than double on one road in one handful of minutes. One of them paid the price of a decent meal, and one paid double that. And Kansas City was not some strange outlier they went hunting for. Across every route they tested in every city, that same middle gap kept coming back. Different cities, different apps, different times of day, and the same pattern each time. The head of Consumer Reports put the problem in one sentence. People expect prices to change when demand spikes, and they accept that. What they do not expect is two customers taking the same ride at the same time and charged very different amounts. So which of the two things is actually happening out there? There are two completely different things going on here. You already know the first one because it is the busy time price. The crowd shows up, so the number goes up, and it goes up for all of them. Now go back to that shop and imagine it looks at you before writing the number, where you were standing and what you were looking at a minute ago, and the thing you put in a basket last week and never bought. Then it decides what to charge you specifically, and only you. Not the crowd, not the weather, not the traffic, just you. Regulators call that personalized pricing or surveillance pricing. Here, a price built for you. One of those two things moves a number because the crowd moved. The other one moves a number for a single person standing in it. A price built for you aims at one thing, the most you would ever pay. And from inside the app, you cannot tell which of the two you just got. So the gap is real, it is large, and it is not the traffic. Which brings us to the part of this that made me genuinely uneasy. About half the prices in that testing came with good news attached. A little badge, a crossed-out figure, a small congratulation just for you. And every discount you have ever seen is really two numbers, not one. There is the one you pay and the one you are told you would have paid. The second one is doing all the emotional work and nobody ever checks it. The trade has a name for it, the reference price or the before price. So here are two people on one road in Florida at the same moment. The first one is shown $89. Crossed down, the badge says, from a higher number, a saving then, and a small reason to feel clever about it. The second person, looking at that same road, is shown $66. One of them was told a story about the number, and one of them was not. No badge, no crossed-out figure, or no congratulation of any kind. Just a number sitting there, quieter and smaller than the other one. The one who was told they were saving money paid the most. It is worth stopping on that one for a moment. That was not a one-off, and it was not bad luck either. Consumer Reports flagged 12.4% of the discounts as resting on a made-up price. The saving was measured against a number the seller had chosen because it could, and those discounted prices were often higher than what other writers were simply quoted, which turns the whole thing inside out if you follow it through. Think about what a discount is actually for from your side of it. Hunting for a deal is the one thing you do to protect yourself. The discount is the thing you look for when you suspect you are being had, and it can be built for you just as easily as the price can. You cannot check it, because checking it would mean seeing someone else's number. So even the good news was part of it, which leaves the question of who builds it. Because somebody had to design the badge and somebody had to pick the number behind it. Because every company in this story says it does no such thing. Not one of them says it prices you from what it knows about you. Now think about the same trip from the driver's seat instead. When you pay for a ride, the money does not all go to the person driving. The app keeps a slice and the trade calls it the take rate, the app's cut. In the early years, drivers kept around 85 cents of every dollar you paid. Then, before the company sold shares to the public, the driver pay was cut. After that, drivers kept roughly 60 cents of the very same dollar. Today, the app's cut has climbed past half, measured twice by separate groups. And the price on your phone is the other half of that same split. The fare you are quoted and the pay your driver is offered are two separate numbers. Nothing ties them together now because the fixed commission is gone. So the gap between them became a dial and only one party can see it. You cannot see what your driver was paid for taking you home, and the driver cannot see what you were charged for the same trip. So what is it actually reading about you? The regulator's own documents answer that. And the list is short and unpleasant. Where you are standing, what you have browsed, everything you have bought before. how old you are, and what the numbers say about people like you. Two of the things that feed the price are stranger than the rest. Your mouse moves across a page, and that is tracked because it says something about you. So can the thing you put in a basket and then walked away from. All of it arriving from the phone in your hand without you noticing. And there is one more, which is the one that stayed with me. Sorting a list of results from cheapest to most expensive. That is on the list of signals as well, which is a sentence worth saying slowly because of what it means. The single move you make to defend yourself is information about you. So the search for a cheaper option is a signal too, because the documents say so. So neither of you can see the other's number, and the gap between them belongs to the software. But every one of these companies says it does not do this at all. And here both things turn out to be true at the same time. The two big ride apps deny personalizing prices, flatly and without wriggle room. They say they do not personalize base fares and do not price on behavior. A trip is defined by when it is asked for and what the market is doing. Take that seriously for a moment, because it might be entirely true. So who exactly is left to be doing the thing the regulator went looking for? Because the companies building this machinery are not the companies you buy from. In the summer of 2024, the Federal Trade Commission went looking for them. It ordered 8 companies to hand over how their pricing products actually work. Not a lawsuit, just an order to explain how the products actually work. And the names on that list are the part that lands. The company behind the card in your wallet, a bank, and 2 of the biggest consulting firms on earth. Not one of them sells you anything, ever. They sell the capability to the businesses that do, and then they disappear. They build the machine, they sell it, and their name is on nothing you hold, which is why every denial you have just heard can be perfectly honest. You have been looking for the villain in the wrong building the whole time. There is a number in your head that you have never said out loud. It is the most you would hand over before you walk away and take the bus. You have never told anyone what it is because nobody has ever asked. A congressional committee writing about all this called it your pain point. The most you will pay, worked out from data, and then charged to you. That committee is not writing essays about this in the abstract. In the spring, it demanded pricing documents from 5 large consumer companies. Both of the ride apps in this story were on that list. The consumer group had already asked federal regulators to open an investigation. Some 32,330 people signed their names to back that request. The committee's own complaint is not really about the money at all. Often this takes place in a black box environment, it says. Consumers do not know that a price is being built for them. So the industry is real and documented, and it sits behind the brands rather than inside them. So what do they say when they think only their investors are listening? In November of 2024, an airline told a room full of shareholders. The airline is Delta, and the man speaking was its president, Glenn Howenstein. He described what they had built as a super analyst, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, setting prices in real time. The early results, he said, were amazingly favorable. It was, in his words, a full re-engineering of how the airline prices. This is a man describing his own company's pricing to the people who own it. At that point, it was running on about 3% of domestic flights. 9 months later, 3 United States senators wrote to the airline about it. The same question they had been asking about the price on your phone. Their warning was that fares would climb to each passenger's personal pain point. At a time, they wrote, when families are already struggling with rising costs. Nothing in that letter was invented, because they were quoting him back to himself. The airline's answer arrived quickly, and it could not have been flatter. There is no fare product Delta has ever used or plans to use. None of them targets customers with individual prices built from personal data. One of the senators read those 2 statements side by side and said this: Delta is telling their investors one thing, and then turning around and telling the public another. Both of those statements are on the record, and you can weigh them yourself. 10 years ago, one of these companies said the quiet part on the radio. In 2016, Uber's head of economic research was asked what the data showed. It is in the transcript. One of the strongest predictors is your battery level, not the weather and not the traffic. The charge on your phone. Below 5%, people stop waiting and decide they had better just get home. That is the exact moment a person stops being able to say no. And in the very same breath, he said the company does not use it. We absolutely don't use that to push you a higher search price, he said. Take that at face value if you like. From where you are standing, there is no way to check it either. The unsettling part was never the using of it. It is that the measurement exists at all and nobody outside can see it. Now, there is a serious argument on the other side of this, and it deserves saying. A price built for each person could charge the rich more and the poor less. We already do that on purpose with student fares and off-peak tickets. But a student fare is published and anyone can see who qualifies for it. This aims at the most you will pay, which is a different target entirely. And a dying phone battery is not poverty. It is just a bad evening at the end of a long day. So one company described the machine in its own words and then said it never used it. If you want proof that all of this is really happening, start with the law. In one American state, a business that prices you from your own data must label it. The label is exactly one sentence long. More than 40 such bills appeared in a single year. Nobody writes a warning label for a thing that nobody does, and then it climbed off your phone entirely and onto the shelf. 2 senators wrote to the supermarket chain Kroger about its digital price tags. A paper tag has to be printed, carried out, and clipped on by hand. A screen can be rewritten while you are standing in front of it. Groceries, the senators warned, end up priced like airline tickets. The price stops being a thing on a shelf and becomes a thing about you. There was one further step in the plan, and it is the one to sit with. Cameras on the shelf displays to read the age and gender of whoever stands there. So the offer can be chosen for that particular person, in that particular aisle. No app, no account, no login, and no sense of being measured at all. That is what the plan describes. A person choosing food and a shelf edge working out what they will pay. So here's the part that is worth carrying out of all this. Start with one road in Kansas City and one ordinary ride. 55 people asked for it at more or less the same moment. It came back with 29 different prices. Not spread over a week, but inside the same handful of minutes. That is the first of the 3 things worth keeping. The second one is smaller and somehow it lands harder. On one road in Florida, 2 people asked for the same ride. The one shown a markdown paid more than the one shown nothing at all. The good news, it turned out, was part of the same machine. And the third thing is the one that outlasts both of them. A price used to be a fact about the thing you were buying. Now it can be a fact about you instead. And the moment that happens, you lose the ability to check it against anyone else. That is what actually changed, and nobody announced it because nobody had to. The damage was never the extra few dollars on any single ride. It is that the comparison died because there is no shared number left. Every generation before you could settle this argument by looking at a shelf. Your parents could check a price because the number was standing there in public. You cannot settle it at all, and that is the thing that moved. One state has already written that sentence into law word for word. This price was set by an algorithm using your personal data, a pricing machine, in other words, using what it already knows about you, which leaves you with exactly one instrument, and you already own it. Stand next to somebody, open the same app, and ask for the same ride. Then compare the 2 screens, which is the whole of the test. That is the only reason anyone found out anything in the first place. Every price you are quoted from here on is a number you cannot check. So subscribe, and we will keep pulling these prices apart until they explain themselves.